Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GeekWave. This is the low-budget show. It's the show so low. It hath no budget, it does not indeed at all, my friends. It is the end of 2022. We are entering into 2023. A new era awaits us all. Hopefully one that is better than this one we are living in. Who knows? But because of that, it's time for the top 10s of 2022. Now, when this comes out, I think it's going to be the first day of the new year, January 1st. Not sure yet. It might be the day before or the day later. Either way, right in the bubble where everyone else is doing this. It's just par for the course, babe. You understand that is how this has to happen. That is what we're doing here. All makes sense. Either way, we're having a fantastic time. So we're going to be talking television, comic books, and movies. All those things that are awesome and fun and cool and make for great storytelling devices. Isn't that great? Love things. That's what we cover on this channel. That's what we're talking about. Of course, we're going to be starting with television. Now, for most of the things we're going to be covering, I have done in-depth videos talking about most of them. A couple of ones I haven't. It's just that, sometimes when you do a lot of content for a living like this, you tend to repeat yourself. So I don't really want to dwell on things for too long. We'll give everything their minimum amount of time to talk about. And if you want to see anything further, you just know I have done videos, reviews for most of these. But we'll start with television, starting with number 10, She-Hulk Attorney at Law. I genuinely loved this show a lot. I think it was so fun, so original. It took so many creative chances that no Marvel project really has before it. It tried to be meta in a way that actually felt authentic to the character. The jokes were really creative. Nothing about this show upset me. It's like, this is the most comic accurate depiction of any character in a Marvel property. Tatiana Maslany was given the green light to make something special and deliver a cool performance. I think this show got it right. It knew exactly the beats it needed to hit. It upset all of the right people because that's not how characters should talk. Well, this is She-Hulk. If you've never read a She-Hulk comic book before, it's like this show. It is authentically like this show. And another thing, my list I learned early on, I have a lot of genre pieces on here, which is really cool to say that genre has really stepped up and done something cool this year. I really dug that. So number 10, of course, She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Number 9 is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I think this season of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is one of the weaker seasons of the show. I say that loosely because even the worst season of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is still better than most television. It took a lot of opportunities to try to tell a new story. It did retread a lot of ground, but where the jokes mattered, the jokes mattered. I found a lot of humor in the small stuff. The side characters got a lot to do. You can definitely feel that we're reaching the end of the narrative, but that's okay. This show was still creative, still enduring, made me smile on a lot of occasions. I had a great time with it. Number 8 is The White Lotus Season 2. That's right, I really enjoyed the first season of The White Lotus. A really underrated show for me. Season 2 was still really enjoyable. All of the characters worked well. I'll watch Jennifer Coolidge do anything nowadays. I think the woman is a national treasure and deserves more than what she has been handed in a little bit. Give her a bigger role. This is I guess her starring picture, but it's really cool. The storylines were all fun. There's some that I didn't particularly love as much as other ones, but just going to Sicily, seeing a bunch of horny people get frustrated their lives are never going the way they want to. I don't know what else you could ask for in terms of your storytelling. That is perfectly what The White Lotus should be. A bunch of horny people failing to do anything right. Kind of cool. And number 7, we have Avenue 5. I have been singing the praises of Avenue 5 since the show debuted a couple years back. This season upped the last one. I don't know how that was possible, but they found a way to be more nihilistic, more just hilarious in what their execution was, have so many supporting characters just act insane and crazy and go down so many insane rabbit holes. Armando Iannucci is not a guy I think everybody likes his sense of humor, but it's perfectly my thing. And putting that in a genre world like Avenue 5, where at any moment something could go wrong, and it often does, is really good. And having Hugh Laurie look the worst he has ever looked on screen and still being an object of sexual desire is one of the funniest things about this show. That is amazing. But this show remains to be amazing and fantastic and creative, and something I recommend everybody check out. And number 6, of course, is Yellow Jackets. Now, the thing with Yellow Jackets is I would have put this higher up on my list if not for the fact that most of the episodes debuted in 2021, and it felt weird to put this show that was primarily a 2021 release in at number 1 for 2022. I adore Yellow Jackets. This is a show that is made specifically to my interest. A bunch of hot moms getting together to do crimes based on the things they did when they were younger. You have so many up-and-coming actresses proving themselves in a role like this. You get to see so many dark interpretations of characters with great actresses being able to play off a world that works so well for them. Just having Melanie Lynskey and Juliette Lewis and Tawny Cypress and Christina Ricci in a show together feels like a dream come true. And then having that be like, oh yeah, they were a soccer team that survived a cannibal attack when they were stranded in the woods. And you're like, oh, yeah, you're right. That is awesome. That is really cool. A great show. Water cooler television at its finest. Everything about Yellow Jackets is specifically my shit. And in the new year, in March 24th, 2023, when Yellow Jackets premieres its second season, we are going to be doing weekly reviews of this amazing broadcast television program. Coming in at number 5 is The Bear. I know. I think everything that can be said about The Bear has already been said about it. I came into the program very late in the game, but it just worked. Everything about the show fired on every cylinder possible. The intensity of every scene was immaculate. The acting for every scene was immaculate. The Bear pulled no punches. It just came in, said, do you like sandwiches? What about a show where that was a hard thing to do? And it did that perfectly. I adore this show. The Bear was fantastic. The acting was great. This one, I think, is going to be the runaway success where you're going to see a lot of shows emulating what The Bear did with various formats. Number 4 is The Sandman, of course. Now, I have been watching the trajectory of The Sandman since they announced it, because I'm like, okay, are we actually going to do this? Is Netflix going to get something right? They're going to make a show based on the most award-winning graphic novel of all time. Is that something they have in their wheelhouse to do? They did it. It was great. The execution was flawless. The characters were all written perfectly. Literally panel for panel moments from the graphic novel were executed in this program. And that's really cool to see. I loved every second of The Sandman. Just perfect, if I were to tell you, this is how you do a graphic novel in a TV show, it would be this. We're not stretching out storylines. We're just taking issue for episode. That makes sense. And I think no one did it better than The Sandman this year in terms of comic book stories like that. And number 3 is Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I love this show. I think it is so strong, so creative, takes so many cool opportunities to do exactly what classic Trek has needed for a while. Just going back to basics. Episodic episodes every week. We're going to go do new stories. We're going to have a hot cast, and Anson Mount's going to lead us on some grave adventures. We're going to go to all these new different places, see some familiar faces, introduce you to the cast of characters we had before the original series. It is a beautiful budget, some of the best CG I have seen this year. A great cast with a bunch of hunky, sexy people doing some fun stuff. It works so perfectly. It is flawless in every execution of the world. It is Star Trek at its finest. Some of the best Trek we have had in decades. In decades, folks. Decades. Number 2 is Acapulco. I have sung the praises of this show for a very long time, and its second season has debuted and somehow just made for amazing television. I was so giddy watching this show. Every second of it, I was smiling, having the time of my life. Just an amazing opportunity, an amazing show with some great characters, a great cast of people, a perfect comedy. The show that I will always tell people, like, it is a sleeper hit. Please watch it. It is so creative and fun. Now, number one, I'm sure you all be able to guess at this point. It is one of the most amazing shows to come out this year. Andor. I don't want to say it's a sleeper hit because it's a Lucasfilm Star Wars project, but I think what Andor did was show the world, oh yeah, we're going to do something different with Star Wars for you. We're going to have something that feels like George Lucas would have a hard-on watching it. Look how insane and scary the Empire is. These guys are bad. We're going to get the perfect casting for you, a bunch of supporting characters that all have different stories and personalities coming together to make this one thing work. Mon Mothma's story remains one of my favorite things on television this year. Diego Luna just delivered something spectacular. I didn't think Andor would be my number one show of the year, but it is the only TV show this year to make me cry. Make me physically go, oh shit, this is how you do it. This is how we tell stories like this, man. So I had to give it the number one position for that alone. As we move away from television, let's talk about the comic books that came out this year. A lot of good stuff. I tried to be very diverse, looking at more than just Marvel or DC. I did a lot of independent books this year that I really enjoyed. So let's get into it, starting with number 10, Sins of the Black Flamingo. I really enjoyed this book. I think it was incredibly fun, beautiful artwork, a bunch of cool characters coming together to do something unique and creative. Of just a different type of story you don't get to see. Like, here's a gentleman thief working in Miami, and then suddenly it's like, oh man, gods, angels, and demons and all this shit coming after him. What is a man to do? Do something like this. Very fun, very particular. Definitely my speed. Definitely something I really enjoyed and had a great time reading. I recommend it to a lot of people if you want it like a different type of story. It's very fun. Number 9 is Iron Man by Christopher Cantwell. I've been reading this story since it debuted. It had a great end this year. We wrapped up with a beautiful bow, some really fun character moments. Just seeing Tony Stark in a new light has been a journey worthwhile, and having the book come to an end in a very satisfying way makes it all worth it. It definitely feels like we were taking an opportunity to tell a really good story with Tony and having him reach a conclusion that worked. Beautiful idea. One of the best deconstructions of Tony Stark as a character I have ever seen in a comic book. That is what this Iron Man run did. It is only 25 issues and it is well worth it. And in 2022, we saw that book reach its conclusion in a satisfying way. Coming in at number 8, I have Love Everlasting by Tom King and Elsa Chartier. I think this book is so specifically made for me, where it's like, okay, this woman thinks she's having the time of her life and she's in love. There's some grim stuff happening behind the scenes. I don't want to spoil it too much for people because it's just so creative and cool, and the artwork just invokes exactly the old school romantic comic book it's trying to be homage to, and it's so fun. One of King's better works this year. King, we won't see the end of him on this list, but the guy has just made some incredible books, and having it from Substack originally is kind of cool to see. Just a really good romantic book that goes to some really fascinating angles and tells a really, really compelling story. I enjoy Love Everlasting a lot. It's definitely my cup of tea. And coming in at number 7, we have Survival Street, another book that feels like it was made specifically for me. This is the tale of your favorite PBS characters, and now they are like left-leaning radical terrorists trying to spread the good word of what the life is supposed to be, and not this right-winged, far nutty, gun-blazing world. I love puppet stuff. That should be apparent if you know me at all. This is just perfectly my shit. It's just so specific, so creative. I adore everything about Survival Street. I unfortunately couldn't get all the reviews done for this book because I just didn't have the time, but such a creative read, such a good parody of what it's trying to emulate. It's that kind of fun energy that I adore and I love to see. Coming in at number 6, we have the new champion of Shazam. Look, I will read anything Shaner works on because his artwork is just breathtaking and fun to see. But given Mary Blumfield, like, her opportunity to do something special, we don't see that enough anymore. And when she just shows up in beautiful art with great writing that takes the character in a direction we haven't seen from her before, I feel like we're actually doing something creative and cool. It's so rare that a character like this gets her opportunity to do something, but it's fun to see it. Like, she deserved this. She earned this. A fantastic read that is wrapping up in this new month. Yes, I think it's ending in January. 4 issues, should be longer. Beautiful artwork, a beautiful story. The new champion of Shazam. And coming in at number 5, we have Public Domain, another one from Substack. Chip Zdarsky has had a really great year doing some really fun work, but this is just, again, my cup of tea. The guy wrote a really good story about this guy who makes comics, gets shit upon by the company he works for, and then finds out he actually owns the rights to a character that they have been making for a long time. It has sex criminal vibes, not just because Zdarsky's doing the artwork for it, but just like, it's that type of just like tongue-in-cheek silliness that we're seeing applied here. It's a really fun story, depressing in some aspects you're not expecting it to be depressing in, and feels very authentic. And while it's an homage to comic book creators, it also feels like there is like some sad behind-the-scenes stuff that Zdarsky wants to talk about. But Public Domain, an incredibly powerful and fun book. And coming in at number 4, we have Batman, Superman, World's Finest. Mark Waid and Dan Mora teaming up to give us one of the best looking books from these really cool characters. My goodness, just having Mark Waid touch Superman at all always feels like a blessing. Having Batman be in there too, in like this timeless story that could be connected to maybe Kingdom Come or something. You never know what's going to happen. It's so creative. It's so unique. It's just like really fun stories about these two that feels like it's going in a direction we haven't seen before, and that is always a cool thing to see. Always a blast to have these two come together. And Dan Mora, working at DC, has done some really great artwork. This is some of the best. Really good to see a Superman book that actually feels great. No doubt in my mind next year we're going to see him in a bunch more top 10s. And coming in at number 3, we have Moon Knight. I have said this before, and I will say it again. This is the best Moon Knight run we have had in ages. This was my number 1 book of 2021. It was just so strong, and the energy was so perfect, and it just illuminated things in a beautiful light. This issue, or this, I guess, current arc we're doing is the vampire arc. While I don't think it's as strong as the previous arcs, I can't say this run has been shitty. The artwork is breathtaking. Jed MacKay certainly understands how to tell a Moon Knight story, and is giving us one of the best interpretations of the character we have seen in a long time. Great work if you are a fan of Moon Knight. The continuing work of this run is breathtaking. And coming in at number 2, we have The Jurassic League, another book that is just built specifically for my taste. What if the Justice League were all dinosaurs, and then they just had to fight a bigger dinosaur? That's it, man. That's my stuff. That is so specifically the things I look for in my content. Just this insanely specific, crazy stuff. The artwork is so intense and frightening. I love every second of it. The interpretations of the Justice League are just so perfect and gross and awesome. This book is perfect on every conceivable level, and I hope more people read it. But of course, coming in at number 1 is The Human Target. I said Tom King would be on this list again, and I meant it. This is perfect. I think this is the perfect comic book. Smallwood's artwork perfectly fits the tone of what we are trying to tell in this run. It's doing so many great homages to classic stories, using characters that don't normally get the love, and having something fun happen with them. This is it, man. This is so good, so specific, so fun. Utterly love everything this book did. My favorite comic book of the year. We have 3 more issues coming out in 2022. This is going to be like the hardcover to get. It's such a strong read, and the artwork is breathtaking. So, we did movies, we did comic books. Let's talk about a couple movies that I just adored this year. A great year for movies, by the way. Starting with our number 10, Beast. I remember when this came out, I went to see it with my father, and we were just like, oh shit, Idris Elba is fighting a lion? And it was breathtaking. A beautiful story about a father protecting his kids, and it's such a unique piece. And I just love the camera work and the way the story progresses. One of my favorite films of the year. So specifically, again, my shit, but that's what I live for. And coming in at number 9, we have Turning Red. I really liked this movie. Maybe more so than other people have. But Turning Red is a beautiful coming-of-age tale about a young woman trying to figure out her life in terms of like this family dilemma that she has to deal with. Look, it's just beautiful if you are a young person trying to understand these feelings you have building up inside you. How do you disappoint your parents? How do you rise above that without experiencing that? And on top of that, it's just like Disney using the animation wheelhouse that it's known for, but having a little more flair to it, getting a little bit more expressive with it. It's very fun. Turning Red was so good. And the fact that it made people upset, like, it's about periods. It's like, fuck yeah, fuck all of you. It's awesome. This is what I want in my life. Coming in at number 8, I have The Northman, a movie that is so good but nobody watched. Eggers is this director who could just put you in a dark room and make you feel uncomfortable just by what's not going on. And when you have The Northman, it's like this big, barbaric, disturbing story that might have inspired like the mystery in the world of Macbeth. This guy who is so desperate for revenge, he's blinded by it. It's raw, it is brutal, the cinematography is so intense and powerful, the story is so compelling, every actor is having the time of their life in this thing. Nothing about this movie is bad. It is just so unique and expressive and powerful, and definitely worth checking out. The Northman freaking rocks. And coming in at number 7, we have The Batman, the only superhero property I have on my list. I like this atmospheric take on The Dark Knight, where it's just, this guy is so blinded by rage, he's going to just exist in this weird bubble that's very specific. The energy that this Gotham City gives off is some of the best. The way this feels like it actually loves Batman and turns him into a superhero who cares about people is very impressive. The way he plays off of Zoe Kravitz is next level. Everything about this movie just worked on a very strong note. Amazing. An amazing movie. And coming in at number 6 is Babylon, baby, a film made just for me. I freaking love Babylon, guys. This movie, I just did a review about it a couple days ago. Haven't stopped thinking about it since. It is made for film nerds. It loves movies so much. The best way I could describe it is that feeling people had when they watched Avengers Endgame and all of the characters come together. It's like, Avengers assemble. That's what the last 10 minutes of this movie did for me. That's the feeling I got. That is how it made me feel. I love it. Babylon is perfect. Giselle deserves a win. Diego Calva deserves to win. Love it. Absolutely love it. Coming in at number 5, we have The Banshees of Inisherin. I think this movie, again, just plays into some of those things that I feel all the time. I understand Gleason perfectly. I know Farrell perfectly. It's such a quiet, moody, retrospective film just about people living on an island. Do they like each other? What's the point of anything? Very depressing if you think about it. Or if you're not even going to think about it, just surface level of very, very, very dark comedy. And everything about that worked really well. I like this McDonough. I don't know if it's my favorite work of his, but he's doing something special here. And it just looks great and it feels so cool. Just a depressing film about people who might like each other or might not. What more do you want? Coming in at number 4, we have Avatar: The Way of Water. But what are you talking about? Nobody knows the name of any of the characters, and I don't know anybody that saw the movie. Well, in its third week, it just jumped up 6%, so shut the fuck up. This movie looks amazing, unlike anything you have ever seen before. The story, while simple, serves the purpose of what we are trying to get across in this movie. It is beautiful, breathtaking, the best looking water on film. There is not a moment in this movie I hated. Maybe some things didn't play out perfectly, but I liked every second of this movie. Avatar: The Way of Water is really freaking good, and everybody should go check it out. Coming in at number 3, we have RRR, Rise, Roar, Revolt. Here's the thing, folks. The biggest mistake I ever made in my life, well, that's a big statement. The biggest mistake I made this year was not seeing this thing in theaters. I had the opportunity to see it in theaters. I didn't go check it out. I wish I did, because this movie just slaps on every conceivable level. We don't make them like this in America, you know? Where it's like, what if these guys just became the best friends and took down an entire empire? It's so specific and gnarly and visually pleasing. It has great music and great depictions of action. RRR rocks. It is such a strong movie, and I know that's like a cliched thing to say, but it's the truth. I don't think there's a single frame of this movie I hate. It just rips on every level and makes me so happy, and I smile my whole way through it. And Not To better win the fucking Oscar. What are we even doing? An amazing movie. So many good 3-hour films came out this year. Awesome. And coming in at number 2, we have Pearl. T. West gave us 2 movies this year. Pearl was my favorite of the 2. Just watching this woman who desperately thinks she matters, she is strong, she deserves everything. Just getting, like, you don't deserve this. You're not that good. And she loses her mind because of it is fantastic. Mia Goth delivers my favorite performance of the year. Her monologue is bone-chilling. It is next-level stuff. She is the actress on my radar for no matter what she is doing. I think she's the best. Not a frame of this looks bad. The color palette is so specific and red and aggressive. I adore it. This is one of the best looking films to come out this year. It's one of the strongest films to come out this year. Everything about this looks amazing and awesome and satisfying. Pearl would be my number 1 movie of the year if it wasn't for this little gem that surprised me, Pinocchio. Specifically, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. I love that he's been going like, animation is important. This is a medium. This matters. Like, you could tell stories in here that you normally can't. And he defended that by giving us one of the best animated films of the year, one of the best films of the year. The Pinocchio story, you've seen it a million times and you're well aware of it. But what this movie does is focus on, like, the immortality and longevity aspect of a character who could live forever, where it's like, do you want that? How do you feel? How do you love in that situation? What is death to a god and all that kind of stuff? Well, giving us a story set in Nazi-occupied Italy. Mussolini appears in this story. It is so beautiful. The cinematography is breathtaking. The writing is breathtaking. I loved every second of this Pinocchio film, and it just blew my mind on every conceivable level. I think it's perfect. A perfect movie that shows you animation isn't just for kids. The Pinocchio story can matter and be interesting. Amazing. In the same year, we have the best movie being Pinocchio and the worst movie being Pinocchio, because that's what good art does. It takes a concept and just blows you away with it. And when you do something stop motion like this, you get something special. And Pinocchio is a lot of things, and special is certainly one of them. So, folks, that is going to do it for this rendition of the GeekWave. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck. And hey, see you in the new year. Also, what movies did you like? A lot of good stuff came out this year. Any of them better than Pinocchio? Who's to say? Later, skaters, and happy holidays.